I think the Antagonist movement is total shit.
Those guys, man, they pissed at my ice cube tray.
What do you think of the Antagonist movement?
I don't know anything about it.
The Antagonist movement grew up somewhere near my nutsack.
The Antagonist movement stabbed my cat 17 times up the ass.
This movement, guys, stole and shaved my cat. Those guys killed my mother's dog.
And that's it, never should have left there.
Those Antagonist guys, they shat in my ice cream tray.
Remained somewhere, like in my dirty laundry, in my room, in the bucket.
What, those Antagonist guys? I think they're just a bunch of wannabe artists in a basement.
Filled with some kind of moldy shit on the bottom.
In a bar in the East Village. What do they think they're doing? Like, the first East Village movement was on the streets. These guys are under the streets.
That somebody's gonna scrape off and make it to some kind of Australian delicacy.
No one knows about it. No one hears about it unless you actually know some of the people.
To wipe on bread.
Ew.
Bullshit.
So I think it's the wrong idea, the worst way to show art ever.
The Antagonist movement, those guys, they ate my sandwich and barfed.
The Antagonist movement raped and pillaged my land, oppressed my people, and then put me on welfare.
Yeah, we get people to make art that wouldn't normally do it. And or whatever, writing or photography or painting. I think that's the coolest part about it, is that we've created an environment where people feel comfortable sort of putting themselves out there and making stuff that they wouldn't normally make because they feel comfortable doing it with us.
Get that fucking camera off. Turn it off.
Make me turn it off.
We've gotten press in like other countries, like Sergio Tours, and people know about it. And you know what? We're not Coca-Cola, but what's really important is that there is something, whether it has a name or not, and it does have a name. It's the Antagonist movement, but
we condone all criminal activities. I think everybody in the Antagonist movement probably has a record. Do you have a record?
No.
All right.
I'm a good girl.
90% of us have records.
It's not just art. Like, this movement already has, like, inspired people, like a deadbeat dad, to get involved with his children again.
I like the criminal element that we have too.
It really is. Antagonist movement is not just encouraging artists and or creating artists and or nurturing artists.
We definitely encourage people to steal their art supplies.
It is kind of lifestyle. It's like
create art at all costs, whatever that means. If you have to steal it or
are you stagnant? Well, let's fucking stir the water, you know.
For the Flying Aces, Mike,
Aaron,
Edwin, and John.
Yoko put me in touch with her friend Ethan, who did the show last month.
Nice.
And I put a piece in for that. And then on like Tuesday, Amanda called me and said, I have a show on Thursday. Do you want to throw some shit together?
Right on.
I shoot a lot of like the independent music scene here. I meet up with a lot of bands, and I do a lot of like album covers and cover just like tons and tons of live shows and stuff. It's gotten me further. Like, I shoot for Punk Planet magazine sometimes when they have New York stuff, you know. And the way that I got that was just like showing them work from like the indie scene here.
Because it's easy to be the big fish in a little pool, like, and you're in competition, and you better work hard, and you better show people what you're made of, and you better do what you want to do, because if you're faking it, people know it, you know.
my name is Patricia Henudel, artiste. It's my first time showing here at the Niagara Antagonist Movement Ignite, and it's my first show ever. So thank you guys so much. I'm just really happy to be here. Yay! It's weird because it's like a big party in your studio, basically, you know?
You wanted to buy it,
but I couldn't afford it.
How much did it cost?
$300, which is very affordable, but
It's still too much money for somebody like us.
too much money for somebody like me, but worth a lot more than $300.
Well, basically, it's girls in violence or women in violence. The stereotype of the violent woman in today's society, it's very interesting as opposed to like the stereotype of the male aggressor. I mean, oftentimes, if a woman commits any kind of violence, there's a reason for her to do it. There's like a man coerced her into doing it, or it's a man's fault, or a man did it, and she's like nothing but like a bitch or a whore. But she's not a person with like actual feelings and stuff, you know. But whereas like the man is, and so I've been like reading books about like the psychology of female violence. I've been trying to incorporate that into my paintings, but I'm still reading the first book. So there have been like female serial killers. There have been like very violent females around, but like you don't hear about them. You hear of Ted Bundy, you hear of like Charles Manson. I mean, sometimes these women did worse things than they did, but you just don't hear about them because this society has the female stereotype being like pure and innocent and like the protector, the mother.
So you're trying
they don't want to hear
to
that.
promote female violence?
No, I'm not trying to promote female violence. I'm just trying to like be like, this does happen, you know, like females do like feel
Open
this
your
way.
fucking eyes, society.
Exactly.
If I have to kick your ass on camera, I'm
It would
not
be
right
really
there.
entertaining.
I'd rather do it off camera so that you're not embarrassed for the rest of your life, but I'll do it on camera if I have to. The antagonists are here to create protagonists. Has a negative connotation, but it's not actually a negative word. Like fertilizer. Antagonist, it's fertilizer. That's what it is, and that's a positive thing, unless you're making bombs with it.
They started with a series of people prints. I used small architectural models, and I would use those to make immediate ready-made prints and use watercolors to paint them, and they were embossed, heavily embossed. So they're very realistic representations of people that are already made and beyond my control, and I positioned them in space, and they would be in a very isolated environment because the whole back of the paper I left white, and in that you're allowed to make your own assumptions or ideas of what that space is and what those people are doing and how those interactions are transpiring.
There's all sorts of, it's good to be able to dance and see rock and roll music and check out art and all that stuff. I think it's great.
I think it's great. I think bringing music and art together are really important because they're both, you know, definitely artistic forms of expression, and I love music as much as I love art, so the two of them together is just easier for me because it's all in one place.
What would you say to an artist who, by all society standards, sucks, but just loves to create?
Oh god, if they're into it, like keep going, you know? Like
It doesn't matter, right?
It doesn't really matter what anybody else says about your work, really, in the end, you know? I mean, it matters if you feel something inside and you feel you have to get it out through art, or that's the only way you can get it out, then by all means go for it. Like, do not give it up and like become an accountant. The act of creating is the most noble thing you can do. It's like it just changes people's perspective in a way that like other things just can't.
Come on, I want to see a little Lady and the Tramp. Shout out to Nicole.
Damn.
What? What's going on?
No, I was just scaring the shit out of some artists.
And you have lipstick on your cheek.
This song.
Oh, look at that.
Shaka.
Now I have it inscribed on my underwear. You want to see my underwear?
Here's the results of my Rorschach test from last night. Psychological report. Examinee Brian Middleton, test administered in Rorschach. Behavioral observations. Brian is a charming, well-related boy who participated in the testing session in a quiet manner within the bounds of politeness. He appeared minimally anxious throughout the session, though he did not smile and made minimal eye contact. Brian was cautiously oppositional, asking the examiner whether or not he could turn the card. He proceeded to do so on several of the cards administered. Overall, Brian is a likable, thoughtful, and creative boy. Results. The projective testing showed that Brian has superior intellectual abilities, as well as the ability to think abstractly and fluidly.
Charcoal drawings on blueprints, 24 by 36 inch blueprints. Originally they were just to, I'm mainly a painter, and they were just to work out compositions. And I just moved here to New York in August, and I didn't have space to paint, but I could draw, so I had a bunch of blueprints, and I just, just working them out.
So I went to the website and I sent an email to the website saying, I have a website online, rachelstreet.com, and I said, check it out, let me know what you think. And I didn't hear back until it was like a month or so later, so I kind of forgotten about it. And I was like, this is cool. And then I had to find artists, and that was actually a big problem. I couldn't find artists who would participate with me. And I had some artists who wanted to participate, but I thought their work was really, really bad, so I wouldn't let them participate. So it took me a little bit. So it took me a good 2 months to actually finally get around to finding people to show it. Most of my artwork deals with my personal relationships. I have a series with the airplanes called I Can Leave You. And for the longest time, I couldn't show these photographs because of September 11th and the image of the airplane. I didn't want people to think it was about terrorism, but it's just about, I was living in Illinois, and I moved out to New York, and it was a big thing where I was able to leave basically my life there. Like, I can leave you, I can leave these relationships, these people. And then the other series in the show is with tree branches. It's Don't Ask Me If I'm Happy. And that was actually about my professors in college. We fought constantly about what is art, what belongs in a gallery. I was doing book art, and my professors told me I didn't even know what an artist book was. And I was really pissed off because I had studied in Glasgow with like David Shrigley, and I was like, I know what an artist book is. So we were fighting all the time, and this was just me sort of looking up to the sky, just frustrated as all fuck, saying, just, don't ask me if I'm happy because I'm so mad at you guys right now.
She had a golden lover who would not know a master. The priest in the dark cathedral demanded that he kneel, but he stood tall.
You know what? On a very, very serious note, I'd have to say that they need psychiatric help. But most of these people, like myself, and I would have to say that the youth of today, that's what really inspires me. Their energy interjects into me, and it comes out in various ways. I mean, I really don't follow a script per se. You know, I don't have somebody write for me. I don't pay to have somebody write for me. Nor, you know, it's like 30 some years in the ring. It all comes out. I mean, this is just the tip of the Rolodex. I have a lot of stories I'd like to throw out.
What percentage of what you said tonight was bullshit?
0%. The only thing that was a little bit was Andre the Giant. Actually, I woke up in his arms, and I don't know if you ever woke up in a giant's arms at night. It's not that bad. The only thing, I was in the ring when it happened.
His hair is turning gray. He has like the bluest eyes in the United States. And of course, it's Paul Newman, God's gift to the women. So I had two women in the back of the cab, and he started to curse me. And he was so wrong, it was unbelievable. So I said, why don't you go back to Hollywood, you big ham? So the next thing you know, I'm out of the cab, and the both of us are pushing each other and winding up. And I'm about 2 inches taller, and at the time, maybe 25 pounds heavier. Mr. Newman's nose was going to get broken. My nose had been broken about 7 times playing all-city basketball, so it wouldn't make much difference. But I would have been the most hated cab driver in the United States because at the time, which was probably about 1967 or 1968, he was really going strong. Finally, we backed off when a big Irish cop broke it up. And the kick line to the story is that in my back pocket, I had tickets to a play with Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward. Thank you.
What do you think of the Antagonist movement?
What you have to do is pan the camera around, and you get an idea of the type of elite literary people that the Antagonist movement.
There was a lot of guys, a lot of wrestlers that I stayed in hotel rooms, obviously. You know, Jake Roberts with a snake and things like that. I mean, you wake up with a python looking at you. There is things, sure beats your ex-wife.
Well, I'm a DJ on BAI's Light Show, and on BAI we've had all kinds of interesting people, wrestlers, musicians, artists, writers, and the Antagonist movement we've had on many times, and always great writers, great performers, and I love the fact that these guys hustle. Ethan's always hustling, get the word out. I mean, what's the point of sitting in your room and just writing if nobody gets to hear it? I said it takes nerve to get up on stage in front of an audience, in front of cameras, and actually perform and, pour your guts, and it's nice to have an appreciative audience, and it's almost like an ideal classroom setting. I'm an English teacher. Once or twice people start talking and the other people politely shush them, and it's just a good atmosphere, and people are very open-minded. And the subject matter is so eclectic that it works.
Views of the readers at Fahrenheit are those solely of the readers and not those of the Antagonist movement. Thank you.
The Ratty the Rat Girl, and in fact, here she is. Would you believe this? Ratty. Yeah. That's what I was just going to say. Young. Yeah, Ratty the Rat Girl. It's everybody should have a Ratty the Rat Girl in their apartment.
Come and play with my tail, baby doll.
Yeah, that's what they say. I sleep alone these days ever since the exterminator showed up. So
because she's written a rock and roll history from an extremely unique point of view. Her name is Dr. Dot. She's the world's foremost rock and roll masseuse, and she's written a book called Butt Naked and Backstage. And here she is, Dr. Dot.
I was raised on rock and roll. I've seen about 100 concerts by the age I was 10 years old. My parents were 17 when I was born. They just dragged me to every concert there was. Melanie, Zappa, Iron Butterfly, all this crap. And at the age of 15, when they split up, I thought, well, I still want to go to all these concerts, and it was too expensive. So my hippie family had practiced massaged every night while they smoked pot and watched Saturday Night Live. And so I was really good at massage, and I thought to myself, why give blowjobs and do the usual groupie route when I can do massage? So I offered massage in trade for getting in free to concerts, and through word of mouth, I made my dreams come true. This is a rock and roll Cinderella story. Whatever you want, you can get it if you try hard enough. I traded massage for tickets And this is a chapter where I massaged Courtney Love. This was, I started in '83 with Def Leppard and worked my way up to Bruce Willis's ass, Mick Jagger's lips, and here's me on Courtney Love's tits.
And one day at work, my boss pulled me and this other guy, Daryl, aside and asked us if we'd like to go see Britney Spears. I mean, is there even a question? So we get these tickets to go see Britney Spears at Nassau Coliseum, and we thought it might be a good idea to make T-shirts to commemorate the occasion. And with a daring strike of originality, I made a T-shirt for myself that said "Show your tits," and one for Daryl, who always stood to the left of me, so you'd read my shirt first and then his. His shirt said, "Yeah, show your tits." So in the parking lot, we already each got on the wrong side of almost a 12-pack and decided it might then be a good idea to mingle with the preteen girls.
And the Ann Arbor punks were there. My buddies and I drove up to visit our old pal Jerry Wilkerson and escape the boredom of our suburban Detroit comfort zone. Wilkerson moved to Ann Arbor to live with his mom because he got busted for stealing a joint from his old man's stash. We were all pretty upset when he left because Jerry was a cool guy to hang around with, and his house had a finished basement. We could hang out there listening to records and talking shit until all hours of the night.
I love this mic. I love that camera. You're not bad either, but that's another story.
It seems as if my hometown has cultivated generations of ignorance where true history slips down the memory hole and into whatever new catchphrase or buzzword our oppressors would like to manifest into truth. Lately, with France leading the way in attempting to stop global destruction, the French have come under some heavy pressure from Americans. We now have freedom fries instead of French fries. A U.S. Congresswoman was suggesting that all remains of World War II soldiers buried in France and Belgium be exhumed and returned to the United States.
I know you're not real, but let's face it. Humanity the world over is living in a very surreal time at the moment, and nothing is too real these days, no matter who is saying "keep it real" or any other slogan of the week that helps us cope with the fact that our standards of humankind are going down the shitter. So take this letter with a smile, St. Nick, for there's nothing better than talking to imaginary friends. George Bush does it every day, and he usually gets what he wishes for. So here are 11 wishes for Christmas. Try to think about everyone and not just myself with this wish list. So work hard, you fat, drunken slob. Our economy wouldn't survive without Christmas, so start whoring. Her husband died in one of the towers, and right around September 11th of this year, 1 year later, she came out in public and said this. At this point, we are fighting for an independent investigation, an investigation into 9/11 removed from the political process. We basically don't feel comfortable with Congress investigating itself. You have congressional committees that had oversight duties with the FBI and the CIA. We want politics removed. We want pure accountability, and we feel that an independent investigation is needed to have that. An independent investigation. Let's make sure our husbands, our loved ones, did not die in vain.
Randolph, New Jersey, the original home of the Mook. The town was broken up something like this: 30% Jewish, 60% Italian, and 10% whatever else. I, being a Mick, was in the category of whatever else, but it all worked out good because the Jews ensured that we got all the Jewish holidays off from school, and all the Guineas made things that were normally considered criminal, such as gambling, perfectly acceptable. So every day we openly played cards during lunch. When football season came around, teachers didn't think anything about us handing gambling sheets back and forth in the hall. One math teacher, Mrs. Sherbo, even helped us to figure out our odds one time, figuring that at least we were showing some interest in math. One of the gym teachers regularly bet with us and regularly lost, and it became sort of a joke around the school, but nobody thought twice about it. Put your hands together for Mr. Gabriel Coutu-Dumont.
This is a drawing book, by the way. I do not write in it, so the only thing that's written in it is what I'm going to read. For some reason, I'm more comfortable showing myself on pictures naked with a heart on, surrounded by kitty cats right now. Another Sunday night at Niagara. The last one. Until I come back. Come back? I have to. New York isn't me now. And I mean, not a romanticized version that I could have had when I first got here, something deeper, something really simple, something probably like Another Night at Niagara. Will Connell is sitting at the bar writing music scores. Kids are beatboxing in the park. By the way, is it beatboxing like a beatbox or boxing with beat?
It's Jason Brownrigg. Last name is BROWNRIGG. 2 G's at the end, not DG or WG or anything else. Pictures out there are sort of a diversion, actually. I'd been photographing women with a 35mm camera, and I don't photograph men very often, so I decided to use the other thing I do, the view camera, and photograph men and see if I could get something.
Why do you usually photograph women?
Well, I think they're more interesting than men. First, if you're painting, you can sort of, imbue the painting with all the things you know about the person. You can render it however you like. With photograph, you only get a 60th of a second of the relationship between you and the subject. So that's what the portrait is of. It's of what's going on there, not necessarily who the person is, or, I mean, you're trying for that, to capture them, I guess. But what you're really getting is the moment. And so, with pictures of women, it all has to do with sort of, pictures of being in the room with the person, sort of creating an artificial, sort of intimate moment so that you can create this sort of pretend portrait. They're pretending to give me something real, and I'm pretending to accept it. But then also, like, actual portraits come through that anyway, so even though it's really structured, they turn out to be sort of interesting pictures.
Do you have any secrets that help you out that might help out some artists who wants to take pictures, who wants to capture people in a 16th of a second?
Actually, people aren't used to being photographed. You can really help them out by telling them how to stand, how to breathe. Okay, put all your weight on one leg, and that immediately shakes them from this to natural sort of standing posture. Make sure they keep breathing because people sort of get stiff.
All my young friends here at the club, and to thine self be true, as Shakespeare once said, quoted it, he said that, and I'd have to say that that's where the true thing in life is, working and doing things that you truly admire and enjoy.